Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's been a minute, but a lot of shifts and changes going on in the background. And this is, as I said previously in my earlier videos, this is a year of change and shift and evolution for Black women. My name is Tonye Barango, and I am the Self-Care Maven. I help Black women over 40 look better, feel better without the pressure of other people's expectations. I am a self-care and health coach for Black women, and things are on the move. And I just wanted to come on and talk about that a little bit because I believe that globally there's going to be a major shift for Black women collectively here in North America and other parts of the diaspora. And I think we need to really reassess, and make some shifts. Now, I know here in the Grudo, US of A, things were particularly stressful for Black women during that 2016, 2017 um, political season when Trump came into office, and even on his exit, the January 6 debacle, and since then. And things have only continued to get more toxic, more stressful if you're a Black woman. And so when we talk about things like self-care, when we talk about women's wellness, all of this is happening in that context. Now, for those of you who've been following me for a minute, and for those of you who haven't been following me here and on Instagram, I am a healthcare professional. I work in the medical lab sciences. And even though I do not have any more direct patient contact, I am fully aware of what's going on in terms of healthcare, maternal health when it comes to Black women. It's just horror story after horror story after horror story. And so this is the context that we are operating in when you talk about self-care and wellness for Black women, and what that should look like, and having the right tools in your own toolkit to navigate these spaces. Now, that's separate from what we as a collective have been dealing with in the US. African Americans, Black women have been dealing with generationally in terms of inequity in the workplace, microaggressions, which I actually, I don't even like that word, microaggressions, because it's a lot more than that. The racism we deal with on the daily basis, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it for myself, and I'm tired of it for Black women. I'm tired of the anti-Blackness. I'm tired of Black women doing all the labor emotionally, intellectually. We should be done by now. We should all collectively be saying we're done. I know me, myself as an individual, I have reached that point where I am no longer willing to do the emotional and intellectual labor required to educate folks on what Black women have to navigate within the context of the healthcare area, advocating for your own health and wellness in the workplace and outside of the workplace. We know that employee morale has been very bad these last few years in particular, and especially if you work in fields where you have a lot of client customer interactions face to face. If you work in the service industry, if you work in healthcare, a lot of us, even during the pandemic, a lot of professionals, especially women, left the field. And we, online, a lot of us try to have community is set up as communities, support communities to deal with those added stresses of that, global situation that we all dealt with. But again, when it comes to Black women. This is just a reality. So if you are not a Black woman and you don't get it, then this is not the space for you. This is a safe space for Black women to come and, get the tools they need to navigate life as we know it, as we experience it as a collective, particularly in the diaspora, where we have achieved certain things, but it looks like, in this day and age, every day in the news, it's like something else is being rolled back in terms of rights, in terms of entitlements that we have worked so hard to achieve as a people. Now, on a separate note, because that's my focus, it's women, we need to know how to navigate that, how to advocate for that, and do it in a way where we're strategic. And it's sad that in 2023, Black women have to be strategic when it comes to their, health and self-care needs. It is a crying shame, but that is the reality. And I'm here to fill that gap for women who feel that they don't have alternatives, or they're in a situationship where they don't have the privilege or luxury of, for instance, leaving a job right now or leaving a relationship right now. So how do you strategically, as a Black woman, and safely navigate that space so that you can preserve and improve your self-care, your overall health and wellness? And so I felt it was necessary again to remind us all that as Black women, these are things we have to do with intention, determination, and with strategy. Because let us call it what it is. The reality of it is, when Black women start to set boundaries, when Black women begin to protect their peace, protect their safety, protect their resources, there are a lot of folks out here, there are a lot of people out here that get violently opposed to that when we start doing those things. I cannot tell you how disheartening it is, where, especially as a healthcare professional, where there isn't a news cycle where a Black woman or a Black female child is not the victim of violence that leads to either hospitalization or death. And it would be nice to blame it strictly on racism, but the reality of it is, and the truth about it is, we are dealing with not just racism, not just patriarchy. We're dealing with anti-Blackness. We're dealing with Black patriarchy and Black anti-Blackness. And so when you have these oppressive systems in force, and racism is a close, very close relative of patriarchy and classism. And I won't get into the particulars of that, although I do have a background in anthropology, biological anthropology. I'm not going to go there because that would be going too far off into the weeds. The point of the matter is, in the here and now, it's time for Black women to get strategic, get self-focused, self-centered. Forget about everybody else out there. It's time for us. This is our season to protect ourselves. This is our season to elevate our resources. And this is our season to thrive and do the things that will make that possible. And for some, that's going to be an exit. For some, that's going to be pivoting to another job opportunity, getting a side gig, getting a side hustle, finding alternative situations, if you will. It's going to come to that. And so I felt it was necessary. It's been a couple of months since I actually put out a video. I've been on a number of other platforms, and there's been a lot going on behind the scenes of what I want this vision to look like for this channel going forward. I thought I had nailed that down at the beginning of the year, but I realized just about what was going on. There was so much happening every single time. There's something happening that affects the status and overall health and well-being of Black women globally, and particularly here in North America. There was always something going on, and things are being ramped up around, for those of us who are still situated here in the US of A and other parts of North America. There's a lot going on. And there's a lot of information coming out daily that really needs to be, we really need to internalize and evaluate and say, okay, what do I need as a Black woman to ensure my own safety, my own health and well-being, and for myself? And then how can I extend that out to the people I care about? And being mindful of myself, centering myself first, prioritizing myself first. Because remember, Black women muling for the community, muling for everyone else, not just here in North America, but on a global scale, we haven't got a lot of rewards for that. Let's be real. And so it's time for us to self-evaluate collectively and individually and really get self-focused, self-centered. Start setting boundaries. And part of that journey begins with self-care. Because self-care, when you start centering yourself, when you start self-nurturing, when you begin to focus on yourself and get self-centered. Yes, get self-centered. That is not an evil word. That is a beautiful word. Self and centered. Because for so long, Black women have been conditioned and guilted into believing that that was for somebody else, that we had to earn our own health, our own wellness, our own self-care. We felt like we had to earn that we had to get somebody's approval, whether it was from community, whether it was from society, whether it was from whatever forces around you. Black women have been conditioned to do this, to mule for other folks. And it's not just Black women, it's women globally. And as more and more of us awaken to the fact that that was a scam and that was pure mythology, look at what's going on. Look at all the global fires going on around us, where every time women rise up and protest and say, you know what, you can't continue to do this to us, violence, death, censorship. Now, look at it from the context of a Black woman, and you can take that to a whole nother level. And it's not just generationally we've been dealing with this. We've been dealing with this for centuries. And it's time to stop the madness. And I think a good number of us are realizing that that was truly madness, and that was truly bondage. And we're beginning to find out, the more we begin to center ourselves and really explore what it means to be a Black woman thriving and an empowered Black woman, and taking ownership of self in our stories, we begin to realize, I had this power all along. Oh my God, if only. Hindsight is 2020. And I wish I could say I had this level of awareness, intuition, and self-ownership when I was in my early 20s. But no. Because I come from a traditional family structure, and a lot of Black people, and I think this is a carryover from the continent too. Culturally, Black women have been conditioned in certain ways. And the added dimension of the transatlantic slave trade, racism, anti-Blackness, all of that generationally, systemically, all of that are things that, unfortunately, because we, as a community, Black women have historically not been centered, we didn't address these issues. And now we are having to, with the realization of the current state of the world, we are going through massive globalization. Technology is changing so rapidly that the laws globally are decades behind the technology. I would arguably say that the technology, there's almost 100-year gap between the laws on the books and technology itself. And that's problematic when you have such large scale inequity, and particularly as it pertains to women as a collective. And then when you hone in and drill down even further as it relates to Black women in the diaspora and Black women collectively, both on the continent and in the diaspora, it gets very, very complicated and problematic. And so, because that has been festering for so long, you have pockets and groups of women who are waking up, Black women who are saying, enough of this. And there are communities of us now that are breaking through that, and that are releasing ourselves from those generational and structural and systemic forces that have kept us bound for so long, that, it's happening, like I said, in communities. And I think that's going to expand even more. But you have the community-based and culturally based, location-based pushback. And there, previously, there was data saying that, the dramatic uptick in violence against women, particularly Black women, was, allegedly due to the pandemic and people being in close contact and, people being isolated. But the reality of the matter is that the pandemic merely exacerbated something that was already at critical mass. We see daily Black women being murdered by their partners. If you listen to the, Twitter feeds, if you watch the Twitter feeds, and I'm guilty of being on social media, but I'm on social media for community purposes and social media because I need to be tapped in to what's going on. the undercurrents of what's going on so that I can be strategic about what I need to do for myself as a Black woman, and what I need to advise my community of women, who want strategies and who need to put protective plans in place for themselves. And that is the reality of it. It's a problem. And as much as we as Black women are tempted to, again, jump in and save everyone else, I think we're at a point where we're going to have to let that go. Because historically, we have been the canaries in the caves, letting other people, saving other communities to our own detriment. And we see the result of that, and younger generation of women see the result of that. And it means that what? We have to take ownership of our own situations. We've got to save ourselves first. Any healthcare professional, any emergency preparedness professional will tell you, you can't save anyone else if you haven't saved yourself first. And I don't know why we missed that memo. I've got my suspicions about why we as Black women missed that memo, but we can't afford to do it now. Too many of us are dying. And I don't want to be dramatic, but that is the reality. Too many Black women are dying unnecessarily. Too many Black women are coming into contact with violent situations that they should not be in, simply because of where their location they're in, community, what they haven't done for themselves, or some other situation maybe that was beyond their control. Bottom line is, Black women need to get strategic, and we need to get self-centered. And that starts with self-care. That starts with self-love. Self-care is multidimensional. It is not the non-Black version that's all over and continues to be propagated through social media and media in general, that has self-care as some mani-pedi, some exotic location that you go off to escape for a day or two, and then you come back to the daily madness of and danger that you've been subjected to for arguably most of your life. That's not self-care. Self-care is being aware, is being strategic, it's putting plans in place, it's centering yourself and moving accordingly, because you recognize that you matter, and that your self-worth and your humanity is not judged or measured by any other human being walking the surface of this earth, or any system on this planet. You matter, you are worthy, and you deserve to rest in your humanity, to rest in your womanhood, to rest in your personhood. That is your right as a human being, regardless of the color of your skin. And we've all got to recognize that and move accordingly. And I'm all about giving Black women the strategies and tools to navigate this problematic world accordingly, so that their self-care happens, number one, and that they thrive, number two. And so I just had to put that out there in the universe and reiterate that, and reassure you that more conversations like this are going to be coming to you here on YouTube. on all my other platforms. Just know that things have been busy in the background, and I'm not ready to share right now. But when I do, you will be some of the first to hear about it. And if I can do it, if other women before me can do it with less resources, believe that you can do it too. Till next time, this is Tonya, the Self-Care Maven. Follow me on Instagram, follow my channel, hit the notification so that we can talk live. This is a small community. I must admit that it's pretty small, but we are small and mighty, and it only starts with one. So till next time, stay tuned. Make sure you follow me here and on Instagram and all my other social media platforms. Let's have community and let's be strategic, sis. Till next time. Bye.